In 1998, a researcher at Princeton University began placing small electronic devices in locations around the world. These devices did one thing. They generated random sequences of numbers, ones and zeros, completely unpredictable by design. The theory behind the experiment was built on decades of prior laboratory research at Princeton that had produced a deeply uncomfortable finding. Human consciousness, under controlled conditions, appeared to have a measurable effect on random physical systems. Not a large effect, not a dramatic one, but a statistically consistent one that had been replicated enough times that the researchers could no longer dismiss it. The Global Consciousness Project was the next step. If individual human minds could nudge randomness in a laboratory, what would happen when hundreds of millions of minds focused on the same thing at the same moment? The answer arrived on September 11, 2001. As the planes hit the towers and news spread across every continent simultaneously, the random number generators around the world stopped behaving randomly. They began producing patterns where patterns should have been statistically impossible. Not in one device, across the entire network simultaneously. The peak deviation recorded that day had odds of less than 1 in 1,000 of occurring by chance, making it the single largest anomaly in the project's database at that time. The project director, Dr. Roger Nelson, described the September 11th data as exhibiting unmistakable patterns where there should have been none. Independent scientists were brought in to analyze the findings, and the debate over what those patterns meant has never been fully resolved. The project is still running today, with 141 devices active across the globe, recording data continuously. The data is publicly available. Princeton has never offered a definitive explanation for what it shows. The idea that human minds become something more when they operate together is not new. In 1960, a meditation researcher named Maharishi Mahesh Yogi made a specific and testable prediction. He claimed that if just 1% of any given population practiced transcendental meditation simultaneously, measurable improvements in the quality of life for the surrounding community would follow. At the time, the claim was dismissed as spiritual folklore with no scientific basis. In June 1993, approximately 4,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. for a 2-month experiment designed to test that prediction directly. Researchers submitted their hypothesis to a 27-member independent review board made up of sociologists and criminologists before the experiment began. Their prediction was documented in advance. Violent crime in the district would drop measurably during the period of group meditation. The obvious objection is that 4,000 people sitting indoors are 4,000 people not out committing crimes. The researchers had anticipated that. Washington, D.C. had a population of roughly 600,000 at the time. 4,000 meditators represent less than 1% of that population, a number far too small to account for a district-wide shift in violent crime. The study also controlled for weather, changes in police activity, and prior crime trends going back 5 years. After accounting for all of it, violent crime had still dropped by 23.3% by the end of July. The statistical probability of that result occurring by chance was less than 2 in 1 billion. The study was published in a peer-reviewed journal. 9 peer-reviewed articles comprising 14 separate studies have since been published, supporting the same effect across different cities, different countries, and different populations. The results have never been fully replicated by an independent institution outside the transcendental meditation research community. They have also never been successfully debunked. No government has acted on the findings. No mainstream scientific body has formally investigated them. The research sits in the peer-reviewed record, unchallenged and largely ignored. Around the same time, a Cambridge-trained biologist named Rupert Sheldrake was working on a theory that took the idea of collective consciousness further than anyone in mainstream science was prepared to go. Sheldrake proposed that living systems, including humans, share what he called a morphic field, a kind of collective memory that exists outside of individual brains and bodies. His theory predicted that when enough members of a species learn or experience something, that information would begin spreading to others with no direct contact required between them. In 1981, Sheldrake published his first book, laying out the theory. The editor of Nature, one of the most respected scientific journals in the world, published a response calling Sheldrake's book the best candidate for burning that science had seen in many years. No counter-evidence was presented. No scientific rebuttal was offered. The most prominent voice in mainstream science simply called for the book to be destroyed. In 2013, Sheldrake gave a talk at a TEDx event in London. The talk was removed from the main TED platform after complaints from a group of scientists. It has since been viewed more than 8.5 million times on other platforms and translated into 28 languages. The specific evidence that mainstream science has never satisfactorily addressed is this. Chemists who synthesize new compounds often struggle for years or even decades to get those compounds to crystallize for the first time. A sugar compound called turanose was considered a liquid by chemists for decades. Then in the 1920s, it crystallized for the first time in one laboratory. Almost immediately after, it began crystallizing in laboratories across the world that had no contact with the original lab and had not changed their methods. Sheldrake documented this pattern across multiple compounds and argued that once a substance crystallizes for the first time, something changes globally that makes it easier for the same substance to crystallize elsewhere. He documented the same pattern in animal behavior. Rats trained to navigate a new maze in one location were followed by rats in completely separate locations, learning the same maze significantly faster, with no exposure to the original animals or their environment. His research has never been published in a peer-reviewed journal. It has also never been successfully disproven. What these three bodies of research share is not a conclusion. None of them have produced a consensus. None of them have been adopted by any government or mainstream institution. What they share is something more specific. Each one produced documented evidence that, when human minds converge on the same focus at the same time, something measurable shifts in the physical world around them. The random number generators produced order where there should have been none. Violent crime fell in a city where 4,000 people sat in silence, in numbers that 4,000 people could not statistically account for. Rats navigated mazes faster in locations that had no contact with the animals that learned them first. The mechanism behind each of these findings remains unknown. The data behind each of them is documented and still available. The question that none of these researchers have been able to answer is also the one that mainstream science has shown very little interest in asking. If human consciousness has a measurable effect on physical systems when it operates individually, and a larger measurable effect when it operates collectively, then what happens when it operates at a scale that has never been attempted before? The experiments have been small relative to the global population. The results at that scale were already statistically significant. Nobody has run the larger experiment. Nobody has publicly explained why not.